Hey guys, it's Kaylee. I am back with another what sold from last week video. In today's video, I'll be going over my sales that happened last week on eBay and Poshmark. We're going to first dive into a spreadsheet that I like to use to break down what my sales were, fees, COGS, everything like that. And then we'll dive into some of those individual sales, talk about why I picked them up in the first place and why I think they sold and how quickly. Let's dive right in. All right, so we're going to be going over sales that happened between March 9th through the 15th. I had a little bit of a slower sales week this week. I'm still struggling ups and downs with slow sales, but again, as we continue to move towards spring, generally during this time of the year, my sales start to go up, and I am starting to see that. In total, I sold 136 items for gross sales of $4,079. My average sale price was much lower at 30. I'm actually taking note of that. I take notes throughout the entire year to kind of project and determine and predict when things are going to happen each year, and they're usually about the same. So I like to take notes when things happen. And during this year, I recognized that when I was having sales on platforms for January, February, and now into March, they were typically lower average sale price, which is why I love padding the things that I'm listing with more bread and butter stuff. And so I think what I'm going to do next year is I'm going to really hit heavy on bread and butter stuff in January and February to kind of make up for some of the sales. People just aren't in the mood to spend money. And if they are, they're buying lower COGS stuff. So like $20 to $30. So I'm going to capitalize on that next year. So I'm taking note of that. Make sure you take note of whatever you've noticed has been a trend in your own store. On eBay, I sold 108 items. My average item sale price was just under $32. And then on Poshmark, I sold 28 items for just over $23 for an average sale price. Let's dive in to some of these sales. So despite most of them being more bread and butter, I did have some pretty good higher price sales. So let's take a look at these. You guys might recognize this from a Thrift With Me video. This is a vintage Rampage dress. This is one of my absolute favorite niche brands to find in Y2K or 90s labels because they tend to be some really good on-trend styles. This is a baby doll lacy dress, longer length. The black and purple contrast is also very on trend, kind of gives it like a meshy look detail. And again, a more substantial piece with it being longer length. This is very, very on trend. Tons of factors here that everybody is looking for, and the brand itself does help to elevate this one. I listed this high. I wasn't sure where to list it at. I listed mine for 150 or best offer. I very quickly got an offer for $100, and I went ahead and just accepted it because making a ton of money, getting that money back and able to reinvest it into something else. And like I said, I would just kind of let the market decide on that one. I priced high and accepted a best offer. So accepted the offer of $100 for that one. This sold within just 1 week of getting it listed, and I paid $6.29. Next up, this is a brand that is newer to me. It is definitely a newer bolo brand that you want to be on the lookout for. It's called Western Aloha. This was a really great print with a larger size. So for that reason, listed this much, much higher at $75. And we did pay up for this one. We actually paid $18.75. So about $19 for this to flip it into $75. But like I said, great sell-through rate on this brand, Western Aloha. This ended up selling for our full asking price of $75, although this one did take a couple of months to sell. And next up, this is an LL Bean jacket with a flaw. Just wanted to show you this one because LL Bean outerwear in general throughout most of the year holds a lot of value. One thing that I really like about LL Bean is they always have their style number here. It's super short. It's really easy to look up. You can figure out the gender, you can figure out the style and do your search from there. And like I said, very easy to look up and figure out if it's desirable or not. Any kind of outerwear, especially ones that have better materials, are probably going to bring you a lot of money. So this one is a goose down, so feathers inside jacket. It's men's, it's a larger size. The problem with this one is it did have a small tear, so not just like feathers poking out, but an actual tear. So that was a major flaw on a down jacket. Still got this because ASP and sell-through rate were so high on non-flawed ones that I figured we could drop the price and still make decent money. We listed this for $65. It did sell for our full asking price, and this one sold within about 2 weeks. All right, this is another category you're going to want to be on the lookout for spring and summer. Just about every year, I guess I really only noticed a couple of years ago, but linen men's, specifically men's linen blazers, perform very well in just about any brand. I'm not super familiar with this brand Ganesh, but the fact that it is a linen blazer is all I really needed to know. So this is a men's larger size. We listed this at $60. It sold for our full asking price. Now, obviously, if you have a better brand in linen, always check your comps. Always check your comps with the brands. Some of them go for more, some of them go for less. But I do find that even the lower tier brands, as long as it's a men's linen blazer, really elevates the value and the sell-through rate. This one sold within just a month of getting listed. We paid $10. Another thing that I like to look for is vintage wool rich, specifically in the wools and the southwestern looking stuff. This is a women's blanket style wool jacket, not super long like that other one I sold in a previous video, so we listed it for lower. But again, in general, if it's vintage wool rich and it is paired with a nice southwestern print or something like that, tends to perform well. Listed this one for $50 and it did sell for full asking price. This one only took a couple of weeks to sell. I will say when you do comps on this, you're going to see some solds that are super, super high. I like to be pretty competitive, especially because we're moving into warmer weather and this is a wool piece. So just keep that in mind with your pricing. All right, next up, another down item. This is Ralph Lauren, similar to LL Bean. If you can find outerwear in any of the Ralph Lauren lines, and then especially when it's paired with something like Real Down, it's going to elevate value and sell-through rate for you. Again, I'm just being mindful of these more wintry pieces and pricing them, competitively to make sure that they move before the season ends and people stop buying. So I listed this one at $40. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $34 and it only took 1 week to sell. Next up, another vintage bolo. I've talked about this for years. It's sold well for me for years. It's vintage Fox racing stuff. This is a men's Fox Racing hoodie, which is probably where you're going to find the most money out of their vintage pieces. This one was more of a plain hoodie, but I still priced it high just because I know people are looking for vintage Fox Racing hoodies. So this is a super Y2K, again, very plain, not very thick Fox Racing hoodie. Listed this for $45. It sold for our full asking price. And this one actually only took about a month and a half to sell. Next up, I'm still doing pretty well with the J. Crew blazers, women's or men's. I do try to look up the specific style because I do find that it can make a difference. This is a size 14. It's their schoolboy blazer, which is one of their more popular blazers. If sell-through rate's lower, I just make sure to price again competitively. This was a really nice one, velvet. Brown is a very trending color right now. Listed this for $40. It sold for our full asking price, and this one also took about a month and a half to sell. All right, this is a brand I'm going to be on the lookout for spring and summer. It is CP Shades. This is a very log and look style brand. If you don't know log and look, I would definitely look that up because it's very trendy for spring and summer. And this one is a brand typically is known for their linens, but they do use other materials. I think this one is a cotton rayon, but you can see it still holds a ton of value. I listed this for $40. It sold for a full asking price of $40. This one, however, did take several months to sell. I think it's because it's more of, again, a warmer weather brand that I listed in the dead of winter. All right, we're still selling some novelty print sweaters. This is J. Jill with a little dog print sweater. And in J. Jill, I tend to only pick up the plus sizes. So this is paired with a lot of great things. Definitely factor stacking here. We've got J. Jill in plus size, plus it is a novelty print sweater. Listed this one for $35. It did sell for our full asking price of $35. This one took about 2.5 months to sell. All right, here is one that is unbranded. We do not, it did have tags inside, but we do not know the brand on this one. It looks like a cheaper brand. Kind of looks like H&M possibly, or Forever 21. But this we found at the bins, and it was just very, very on trend style wise. It's a little baby doll midi dress, very coquette style. You can also see that it's very like milkmaid looking. So these style dresses, this one looks like a Revolve piece to me. Or sorry, Reformation. I guess both, but a Reformation dress is what I meant. This silhouette of a dress, very, very, very on trend. You can see we use a ton of keywords with this, and I think the rose print definitely helped to increase value on this one as well. So unbranded, listed for $40, and it sold on an offer to watcher for $34. This one actually only took 5 days to sell. For something listed without a brand from the bins, appears to be a cheaper type of clothing or material, but again, great, very on-trend silhouette. There are things like this all day long if you know what you're doing that you can list for $40, sometimes $50, and sell for just as much. All right, next up, this is another style-based piece. This is a brand I've sold quite a bit of recently, and it's only because their styles are very on trend. It has nothing to do with the brand. So this is a very unique, interesting bohemian top. Gave very witchy Renaissance vibes. We included a ton of keywords here to make sure it got to the right buyer. Listed this for $35. It did sell for our full asking price of $35. And this one took about 3 months to sell. For all of you that are trying to do style-based stuff, first of all, highly recommend going to Resellers Edge University. I learned from, most things from Bethany and Sean when it came to style-based sourcing. And you guys can learn the same thing from them in Resellers Edge. And then we focus on high sell-through rate, bolos, business strategies, things like that. So between all of us, we're hitting all aspects of business, and we work with all different types of business models as well. And you can really learn stuff like this. But if you're trying to learn off of just YouTube, one thing I wanted to say is for those of you that are trying style-based sourcing and it's not working out for you, something to just keep in mind is whatever pieces that you get that are style-based, they need to heavily lean into one aesthetic. It can't just have a few factors, got to heavily lean into that. They tend to be very standout, unique pieces, like that rose print dress you just saw, like this top right here, and like you'll see in some other examples as I go through. But if you're picking up stuff that looks kind of more plain, that's probably the first place I would start. Start picking up the more unique stuff that stands out. All right, here is a more plain piece, but it's not really plain to me because it has a ton of factors that I'm looking for in Y2K. This is a vintage energy top, which I never thought I'd be selling, but it is a Y2K tank top. So this one had a lot of things going for it. Great silhouette on this one, longer length, fitted, lacy details, Y2K, all the things. I listed this one for $40. $40 for a pre-owned tank top confidently. It even had a small mark on the top that we did note here and in the description. So listed for $40. This one sold for my full asking price of $40 within a couple of months of being listed, and I paid $4.99 for it. So there's tons of stuff like this that we're walking by all day. You just got to know what you're looking for. And unfortunately, it does take, several rounds of education and learning to really get it nailed down and what factors need to be combined and what to look for and brands to look for. But energy is definitely one of them that if you can find it paired with a bunch of those factors, you'll be in a good spot. Here is another one. This is a Y2K American Eagle. I showed this in a thrift haul. Tank top, same thing, baby doll style, long fitted, heart print, I think definitely helped to elevate the value. This one I listed for $35. It sold on an offer to watcher for $30. This one only took about a week to sell, so very quick flip on that. All right, next up, I still love selling Eileen Fisher, particularly the Eileen Fisher plus size pieces. This is a pair of 1X pull-on pants. Listed this for $35, sold on an offer to watcher for $30. This one did take a few months to sell. Here's a men's brand that has a great sell-through rate. It's called Wellin. A lot of their stuff's more, or I guess it's less substantial, so they don't always sell for a lot, but they have a good sell-through rate. This one was a button-up organic cotton hemp shirt, so I did get this one. Lots of factor stacking here, plus it's a larger size. Listed this one for $35. It sold for my full asking price of $35. This one did take a few months to sell. I think a lot of those are just, again, listed in winter. They're summary pieces. It took that long to sell. This is a by Anthropologie piece, which is their house line. I love selling Anthropologie plus size pieces. For some reason, no matter what it is, it always sells quickly for me. This one was also like a velvet burnout style top, which is going to increase sell-through rate and value. Listed this for $30. It sold for our full asking price. This one took about 3 months to sell. All right, next up, this is Vuori. You guys probably are familiar with this brand, but just I like pointing out stuff that I think flies under the radar. This is a very plain looking piece, and if you're not paying attention, you could definitely miss it, especially if it doesn't have the rip tag here. You can see this says tear me. Most people tear this off. So you're left with these small patches towards the bottom. Really important to kind of know, on all these athletic wear brands, where do they put these little patches typically, so that you know where to look when you don't see a tag, and become familiar with how the fabric feels, because stuff like this gets overlooked at the bins all the time, and it's because people don't see a rip tag. This muscle tank top I listed for $35, which is pretty high for a tank top, and it sold on an offer to watcher for $30. This one took just a couple of months to sell. All right, something else we're selling pretty well, style-based wise, are longer length skirts. Not every longer length skirt, it's got to have a lot of factors combined. This one is a vintage Y2K and Taylor. You can see how old this tag looks. Y2K slash possibly 90s, honestly. Longer length skirt, floral. You can see some of the keywords we used here as well. Listed this for $30. It's sold for our full asking price of $30. This one took a few months to sell. All right, and I just wanted to mention Lilly Pulitzer is starting to make a comeback again. Moving into spring and summer, as it does every single year, this brand tends to go up in sell-through rate pretty quickly. And I have noticed that a lot of the pieces I'm looking at, the sell-through rate is going up. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. I'm definitely not picking up every Lilly Pulitzer piece. They do have style numbers on their tag, or you can also Google Lens them to be sure, and size does play a big role as well. But in general, I would say that this brand is trending up for spring and summer. So I am keeping my eye out for Lilly Pulitzer once again. This one was a smaller size, so we listed it a little bit lower at $25. It sold on an offer to watcher for $21, and this one took a couple of months to sell. On to some of the Poshmark sales. Definitely had way less Poshmark sales, but we did have a few good ones. This one is a pajama brand called Nick and Nora. I tend not to get pajama stuff unless I can find the set as a whole, which we obviously had the set here. This can be a good pajama brand to look for. Not everything is good, but some of their prints specifically. There's one I'm thinking of. If you guys know it, you can drop it below, but it's a cowboy print one that performs really, really well. So, there's niche pockets of bolos in everything. You just got to do the research. So this is Nick and Nora. This one is an antique print kind of a set. I would say if I found a Nick and Nora set, period, I'd probably get it if it was the complete set. This one we listed at $40, and it sold for $40, and it was a pretty quick flip. All right, next up, this is Hot Topic. This is more of a style-based piece. I do like selling Hot Topic dresses, although they don't typically sell for much. But I find if I can, market it to the right buyer, if it has the right style aesthetics, Hot Topic dresses do pretty well. This one was a larger size. It was new with tags, and it had a very Lolita style to it. Listed this for around $40, accepted an offer of $36. And Patagonia is still performing well for us in the more substantial pieces. Obviously, the Patagonia cinchillas are something to be on the lookout for. Really depends on the print. But this one we had listed higher. I want to say maybe around like $55, $60. Got an offer for $38, which we went ahead and accepted. I am accepting low-ish offers on the winter stuff, again, just to move it out because people are stopping buying the cold weather stuff. So just want to make sure we get this stuff out so that we're not sitting on it for another year. So accepted an offer of $38 for this one. I've shown this quite a bit. This is one of my favorite brands to get just bread and butter wise, usually flips for 20 to 25, sometimes higher for me. Standard by James Purse. This is a button-up shirt. Find these all the time. This sold for 25 once again. This is another brand that has a good sell-through rate. It is Packed Organic. These are a pair of women's joggers. I find just about anything in this brand Packed performs well. Again, do your own comps on your own pieces. Some of their stuff goes for a lot more, like their cardigans perform extremely well. These joggers sold on an offer for $30. And finishing up with just some quick bread and butter stuff for you guys. Again, these bread and butter sales are what have really held me through for the past couple of months because people are spending less, but they are still willing to purchase, somewhere between $20 and $30 on eBay or Poshmark. So I listed this Ralph Lauren linen top, size 2X, so factor stacking there, and it sold for $25. A J. Crew Vanessa sweater jacket, kind of like a sweater blazer style, sold on an offer for $27. Here is a Lucky Brand plus size top. I do like selling Lucky Brand plus size, but I try to stick with the more unique stuff. This one had a different print to it than most of them. It sold for $23. And lastly, this is a factor stacking piece. This is Cobby. I don't pick up hardly any Cobby anymore. However, this was a size large. It was a linen shirt and it was a full button. And it sold for $29, which is pretty good for a factor stacking piece. All right, guys, so that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you're not already, consider subscribing down below and hitting that notification bell. If you do that, you'll be notified every single time I post these what sold videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.